So guys, welcome back to RBR and to the first episode of RBR Heroes. You've long requested to see that signature RBR style applied to some legends from the past, and today we are doing it with the first AMG in modern history to really leave a mark, and indeed the first Black Series in AMG's history to also leave a mark. Keen-eyed viewers will recognize this as Jezza, or Jeremy Clarkson's old car. It is now part of the Mercedes Benz UK Press fleet, and it is indeed the legendary CLK 63 Black Series by AMG. This car came at a time of great change at AMG. For a company that used to only be known for straight line speed and huge sound, suddenly to build something that was aimed at Porsche GT3. So let's kick off the RBR Heroes series with this, the legend CLK 63 Black Series. So guys, today's episode of RBR is sponsored by Fishing Clash, which is the top fishing game on both iOS and Android. When I was young, I used to love playing Sonic Adventure. One of the best parts of that game was playing Big the Cat and doing fishing. I've never found a game after that where I could relive kind of the fun of fishing within a video game. That was till I found Fishing Clash. It's actually really fun. The mechanics of the game are very interesting. They're very much like fighting games or boss battles within RPGs, where you have to kind of keep the bar right in the middle and the HP of the fish slowly goes down. You have to keep it just right and get the technique right to catch the fish. Obviously it gets harder as you get to rarer ones. And just like AAA games, you've got like skill trees where you can improve your fishing skills, you can get better rods, you can get even rarer fishes, go to different locations to catch all different types of fishes. For example, we've got the Florida Pass at the moment that I'm playing on. Highly recommend this if you love games that you just cannot put your phone down for. They're so addictive. Now, if you use my code, which is Fish with Raz, you'll get a load of extras, which are all worth around about $20. Like a 3-star rod, you get the Florida Pro Pass, you get 50 luck power-ups, 30 weight power-ups as well. And to redeem the code, it's really easy. You just go through the menus, go to redeem code. So guys, do download the game. The link is in the description box below. Please use that link to download Fishing Clash. Use my code FISHWITHRAZ. Please do support our sponsors and support RBR. All you need to do is download this really fun and free game. Right guys, to begin, let's go back in time to the early 2000s, where AMG was a very different company to what it is today. Back then, AMG were known for straight line performance cars, ridiculous horsepower figures, left field charm in design, and crazy exhaust notes, but never anything geared towards handling credentials. Take, for example, the CLK 63 from back then. Undoubtedly a great car with that then new 6.2 litre naturally aspirated engine, 474 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 under 5, but the handling was poo. And that was fine because everybody expected that. You did not expect an AMG to handle well. Amazingly for this car, gear paddles were a new thing. A manual mode that didn't automatically shift up at redline was touted as a feature. ESP that kind of meant off, also touted as a feature. Take a look at what Car Magazine in the UK said about it. That you might as well just wait for the next M3 because it's going to run circles around this. And that's something you'd never say to an AMG today. So it was a hugely different company. And then suddenly Bernd Schneider won the DTM with the CLK DTM. And unbeknownst to the world, AMG released a very special edition car called the CLK DTM for about 236,000 euros back then. Limited edition, only 100 units of the coupes, 40 of those were right-hand drive, I believe, and then only 80 convertibles. And this thing was insane. 5.4 litre supercharged V8 producing 574 brake horsepower, 800 something Newton meters of torque, and a 0 to 60 of 3.9 seconds, 17 years ago. That's bloody insane. And it sold out immediately, right? And we had legends like Jensen Button, Kimi Räikkönen, Takuma Sato, who were buying this car. Then in 2006 came the first ever Black Series, and that was the SLK. This had a fixed carbon fiber roof. It had an aluminium strut bar. It had transmission and steering oil coolers. It was 45 kg lighter, it had more power. Suddenly, they took an SLK and made it more track-worthy. Something was changing at AMG. And nothing signified that more than when the CLK Black Series finally arrived. Now this car was based upon the CLK 63 that was being used as a safety car in F1, which is a bizarre statement for us to make today because the normal AMGs in series production are more than up for the task to this today. But back then, this car was based on the safety car and loads of changes were made, all driver-centric, just like the DTM previously. So unlike the typical AMG jobby back then of a 3K body kit, some wheels, exhaust, etc., this went a lot further into the skin. First, the initial menace of this thing should give the whole game away. The rear, 2.6 inches wider. The front, 3 inches wider. We've got a more extensive intake system on the front to cool what is now a 500 brake horsepower, 6.2 litre naturally aspirated engine. We've got a completely new suspension with new wheel links, thrust, camber and torque arms. We've got a strut that's going between the suspension on the front as well, all completely redone versus the standard car for the Black Series. Along with that strut to help with the rigidity, your ride height, your rebound, compression, all adjustable just like you'd find in the C63 Black Series that followed, and indeed in today's GT Black Series. AMG wanted the car, of course, to be extensively tracked, as you can tell. So like the SLK, lots of oil cooling measures, like the transmission oil cooler, the steering oil cooler. We've got a limited slip differential in this car, which went up to 30% locking under acceleration, 10% on overrun, again, with its own oil cooler as well. The brakes were bigger, 360mm on the front, 330 on the rear. And then you come to the engine. This engine had an additional oil cooler. We had 500 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds, 630 Newton meters, all going to the rear wheels. Unlike other AMGs back then, it had a manual mode that actually meant manual and didn't shift up for you. It had an ESP that actually meant off. And I know this all sounds weird, but back then that was kind of the norm for AMGs. So things were changing, and this car set the standard for all AMGs then going forward. Now, who was at the head of development for this project? You guessed it was Mr. Tobias Moores, the man responsible for pretty much every great AMG we've had in the modern era, from the GTR up to the GT Black Series. Jezza Bovingdon, UK journalist, asked him, what was this Black Series pitched at? And in typical Tobias Moores fashion, he just shrugged and said GT3. And of course, back then, this made our jaws drop because a Merc was never aimed towards a car like that before, ever. So this was a huge statement, and as I said, set the tone for AMG going forward into the future. Now I want to talk about the exterior design, but to do that, I actually want to show you this alongside its successor. There is a dream two-car garage. CLK Black Series, as we're reviewing, and my own personal C63 Black Series. My car is completely stock. I made it to look like the press car. If you haven't seen that video, you must check out the transformation video. Interior is totally different as well. But now let's compare the two of them in terms of design, because these two really set the tone for what an aggressive AMG should be. Even the CLK, it hasn't got any fancy grills on the front like our cars today do, but 3 inches wider on the front arches. Check that out. Similar story here on the C Black. See that DNA, clear Black Series DNA between these two. A completely unique front end that you won't find on any other AMG of its time. Unique to Black Series, somewhat reminiscent of what came later on the SL65 Black as well. Bonnet is pretty simple though, by current Black Series standards, whereas on the C Black, look at that, look at the monstrous nostrils and the power domes that later found their way into the 507 edition as well. Again, even bigger air intakes. Though similar design, to be fair, to the CLK, but much larger. We've got the Aeroflix this time, this carbon feature, which isn't that noticeable in the Obsidian Black. Front splitter on the C Black, also in carbon fiber and very, very big. Of course, these canards, etc., these were optional in the aerodynamic package, which also includes the wing on the back. Another typical Black Series design feature is the wing on the side, and you'll find a similar type of thing here on the GT Black as well. 6.3 litre AMG engine. We'll get onto the engine in a minute. It's got a similar type of shape and design here. This is typical Black Series. Again, 6.3. Wheels completely unique to the C Black, very reminiscent of the current GT Black Series ones, though the CLK ones are even cooler. Mirror finish, much like you find on the Maybachs of today, and you won't see this type of finish on any other AMG. Very, very unique indeed. Extended side sills on the CLK, same on the C Black Series, but in carbon. We've got a carbon side sill there, and they extend onto, again, wider arches on the rear, 2.6 inches wider. Can't remember what it was on the C Class. The CAMG with the air duct in there, so further improvements on aerodynamics in the successor version. Big difference on the rear, we've got the full carbon wing on the C63, which of course looks fantastic on this car. It was an option, so you could get one with just a normal spoiler. CLK still looks bloody aggressive from the rear. When I imagine it in my mind, I almost imagine it with one of those wings, even though that's not the case. On the rear, it's got a very, very big carbon spoiler, again, that you won't find on any other AMG of its time. Lower diffuser, very aggressive, completely unique to Black Series. Typical AMG pipes though. That wasn't the case with the C Black, which introduced what then became the modern AMG pipe design. Again, this is a carbon fiber lower diffuser as well. What's undoubted on both is the aggression that they both have, even versus modern AMGs. These two are never going to age. They're always going to look incredible. Now let's have a quick look under the hood of these two as well. Now if we compare the engine bays of the two cars, of course, both of them have the 6.2 litre naturally aspirated engine shared between them. Slight differences on both though. Obviously internal differences in terms of the power and the components, but got the old AMG logo on this one. You look at the badge, it is darkened like it's meant to be for Black Series, but you've got the old AMG logo there. Come over to the C Black, and although you still have the old logos on the sides, your badge is updated to the new AMG logo. Up against the M, the A is, and it's a much darker badge, as you can see, and that carries through today into our GT Black. But either way, one of the most legendary engines in the world, shared by both of these siblings. So guys, inside the CLK Black Series, you will find a very special experience, even compared to its successor, the C63 Black. And when I show you the C Black's interior, you're going to be wildly disappointed. It was essentially exactly the same, I mean identical to a C180 diesel AMG line. The same seats with the same bolsters, the same stitching, the same material, everything identical. Only difference is the AMG seat badges within them. And I know this to be a fact because I just bought a diesel interior to redo my own Black Series. They're literally identical. Your gear stick, exactly the same as the diesel. Your steering wheel, the same as every other AMG at that time. In fact, the standard C63 back then was trimmed better than the Black Series. You could get dynamic headlining, you get leather covered dashboard, full Napa interior with a different bolstered design, different seat design. The Black Series was skimped on, and for a car that was costing 110k, that was pretty poor. And that's the reason why I completely redid mine in order to give it some Black Series flair and some C63 204 flair, because it just didn't have it before. CLK Black Series, however, different kettle of fish altogether. It actually has unique parts all through it that make it special even today. And it reminds me again of the CLK DTM. Look at the steering wheel. It's one of the smallest steering wheels I've ever held, and one of the squarest ones. It looks almost F1 shaped in that sense. You've got these very dynamic and very purposeful grooves within there that they've brought back on the most recent AMG steering wheels now, which are too thick for my liking, but this one's just perfect. And that's unique to this car. You won't find it anywhere else. Look at the door cards, fully carbon fiber with AMG embossed within them. This lovely aluminium handle as well, compared to the C Black, which was just pathetic. But then you look at the gear lever here, it's very much kind of Skunk Works gear lever, isn't it? And you find the same one, or very similar at least, in the DTM. You've got loads of carbon fiber in here. You've got carbon fiber on this luggage cover over here as well. Track bucket seats, pretty much the exact same Recaro ones that you find even today in the GT Black Series. No rear bench at all. Got the old AMG logo here. In fact, I think you've got more carbon fiber in this car than you have in the C Black Series, to be fair. So there you have it, a more special interior even than its successor, which is great because it gives this car some really interesting character. We've got the dials, which have a carbon fiber backing with the old AMG logo, and they're all black dials, again unique to this car. So really a nice unique experience if you get a CLK Black versus the normal CLKs versus the C63 Black. It's quite wonderful. Now I want to show you the cold start of this car. Have a listen to this. And now let's turn it on. We've got the lovely start stop button here. It's all keyless go as standard on the CLK Black, which again it wasn't on the C63. It's just lovely. Listen to this. And you know what? It's even better when you're out on the open road. Let's go and have some fun in the CLK Black Series. Nothing like a bit of a burnout to start a review on an AMG legend. Whoa, unruly. So, as we start, this thing is an experience. You come from a modern C63 into the Black Series, it's an analog experience. You come from the Black Series C63 into the CLK, it goes even more analog. First thing I feel is an even heavier steering rack. It feels like it almost is lacking power steering, but it's a nice feeling because the turn-in is actually fantastically direct on this. But really, you know, the highlight is of course the engine, ESP light going crazy. You wouldn't have that these days in modern AMGs. Brakes not quite as sharp as what we're used to either. But boy oh boy, look at this. This is a race car. Handling for a car that's this old is brilliant. Honestly, steering, you just don't get this kind of steering anymore because it's hydraulic. Modern cars, all electric, and it really shows through the amount of feedback you get through the wheel. And then of course the wheel, I love it. I'll tell you what, it's so rowdy. It just wants to skid on every single corner. And this was the character of AMGs back then. They just wanted to throw you into a tree. Roads like these, where the CLK comes alive. The engine is so responsive. I mean, what's not great is, frankly speaking, the gearbox. I changed gears about 2 seconds ago, or maybe it felt like 2 years. Again, it's more of a suggestion with these type of cars. Look at that. Even the upshift. Good 2 seconds that was. But that's not kind of what you do with this ilk of AMG back then. You leave it in sport mode itself and let it change the cogs itself because it does a good enough job. That's what all the journos used to say in the magazines back then. I'm sure all of you used to read the reviews back then and remember those words very distinctly. Leave in automatic, stop messing around in manual. Speed, it's there. I mean, it's bloody fast. But obviously it's not as fast as stuff we're used to today, you know, having brilliant EVs and speed. It's there. I mean, it's bloody fast. But obviously it's not as fast as stuff we're used to today, you know, having brilliant EVs and all of those type of vehicles. But with this ilk of car, when you get a classic or a hero like the CLK Black, you enjoy the process of gaining speed, which is this wonderful sound, and the fluency with which the engine delivers the power, being a completely naturally aspirated engine, is something that, as good as the bi-turbos today are, and they are very good, you just don't enjoy as much as a natural engine. Now, I'm very used to my C63 Black Series, done a lot of miles in it. Of course, the rigidity and the ability to put down the power, the traction, is just a lot better in that car. But, like I said, this is an experience where you have to kind of tame this wild animal that's just learning to become more track focused. It's the first real go by AMG on a properly commercial car. So maybe we can do something quite special for the track. And of course, as history would prove, the GT Black smashes it. I love the small steering wheel. I think it's a highlight of this car for me. Why can't we have small steering wheels like this anymore? Is there some kind of government or EU regulation that determines the size that they should be? Because this is fantastic. I mean, it can't be, because the Project One has a lovely square F1-like one as well. I mean, look how lovely and small this is, flat-bottomed. It's a fantastic steering wheel. I'd love to see AMG do a modern version of this. There's plenty of reasons why this car is a hero. We wouldn't have had amazing cars like the C63-204, that entire lineup of cars, if it wasn't for something like this setting the standard, changing things like having a proper manual mode, having a proper ESP off mode, having strat standard for rigidity, having properly unique AMG suspension, a free-flowing exhaust system. All of this you can thank the CLK Black for really drilling into the rest of the standard AMG line. And of course, this idea of an AMG tackling a GT3 Porsche, all that came out of the CLK Black. I personally think it's so special. Only 500 made in the entire world, when you think that the GT Black Series is unlimited production for the year, and most of them went to the USA after 1949, which meant how few right hookers do we have, how few do we have just generally around the world. This is a rare, special car at just the right point of AMG history. So close in terms of performance and everything to see Black anyway, and in a lot of ways, so much more special. Kind of convincing myself to buy one at this stage, aren't I? I love the sound. I mean, the free-flowing exhaust system, it's fantastic. It's one of the highlights of this era of AMG, again, that this car began. What thunderous sound. We haven't recovered from it. We still expect all the cars to sound this way. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of RBR Heroes. I've actually got quite a few classics already filmed for you guys. If you want something specific, let me know in the comments below. Huge fun in the CLK Black. Massive thank you to Mercedes Benz UK for giving this to me. This is an era of cars we're never going to forget, we're always going to cherish. So I'll keep immortalizing them for you on screen. Thank you guys, and as always, please do like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you again next time.